I spent $35,000 on my family's trip to Europe. At the airport, my sister said, "I forgot your ticket." My name is Emma Carter, and this is the story of how a forgotten plane ticket led to the biggest business takeover of my life. 3 weeks can change everything. When my family left me standing alone at LAX airport after I'd paid $35,000 for their dream vacation to Paris, they thought they were teaching me a lesson about knowing my place. What they actually did was hand me the keys to their empire. They just didn't realize it yet. When they came back, happy, laughing, and ready to launch their $50 million real estate project, they found me sitting in the VIP section beside a mysterious stranger. The moment they announced in front of 200 guests that I wasn't real family and had no inheritance rights was the moment they sealed their fate. Because the man holding my hand had just signed the papers to acquire everything they'd ever built. Before we dive into this story, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy stories about dignity winning over entitlement. And I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city and local time in the comments below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let me take you back to that morning at LAX, when I thought I was about to have the family vacation of my dreams. The morning of June 15th started like a dream. I'd been up since 4 a.m., double-checking everyone's passports, organizing the travel documents I'd spent 3 months preparing. My Uber was booked for 6 a.m. sharp. I wanted to arrive early to handle check-in for all 5 of us. Lauren, my younger sister, had texted me at midnight asking if I could bring an extra phone charger. Of course I did. I always did. Standing in the check-in line at Terminal 6, I felt something I hadn't in years, genuine happiness about a family event. For once, we were doing something together that wasn't about arguments, money, or drama. I'd made this happen. When Mom, Diane, had mentioned wanting to see Paris before turning 65, I immediately offered to cover the entire trip. $35,000 for business class tickets, 5-star hotels, private tours. Nothing felt too much for a chance to finally create real family memories. "Emma, you're such a blessing," Diane had said when I showed her the itinerary. Those words meant everything to me. After 15 years of being the adopted daughter, the outsider who just happened to live under the same roof, I finally felt like I belonged. The truth is, this wasn't the first time I'd stepped up financially. Over the past decade, I'd quietly paid off the $200,000 mortgage on the family home. When Dad, Richard, lost major clients in his construction business, I covered Lauren's $80,000 student loans without being asked. When Diane needed a new car after her accident, I bought her a Range Rover and pretended it was a lease so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable. My salary as CFO at Redwood Capital Group made it all possible, but I never kept score. Family doesn't keep receipts, right? At the check-in counter, I handed over all 5 passports. "The Carter family," I said proudly. We were traveling together. Lauren appeared beside me then, her perfectly styled blonde hair catching the morning light. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite place. Was it amusement? Pity? "Emma, can I talk to you for a second?" she said, pulling me aside while the agent processed our documents. That should have been my warning, but I was too happy, too hopeful, too blind to see the storm coming. "Emma, this is so embarrassing," Lauren said, her voice dripping with fake concern. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through something with theatrical confusion. "I don't know how this happened, but I think there's been a mistake with your ticket." My heart skipped. "What do you mean? I booked everything together. I have the confirmation right here." No, she interrupted, her manicured nails tapping the screen. "See, when I was organizing everyone's seats last week, I must have— oh God, Emma, I'm so sorry. I accidentally canceled your ticket when I was trying to select our meals. The system must have glitched or something." The check-in agent called out, "Next, please." But I couldn't move. The fluorescent lights suddenly felt too bright, the airport noise too loud. Diane appeared with her Louis Vuitton carry-on, glancing between us with polite surprise. "What's wrong, girls?" "We need to get through security." "Mom, it's Emma's ticket," Lauren said, eyes wide with manufactured panic. "It's not in the system. I think I accidentally canceled it when I was—" "Oh dear," Diane sighed, though her sympathy felt hollow, rehearsed. "Well, can't we just buy another ticket?" The agent checked her computer. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this flight is completely sold out. Has been for weeks. The next available seat to Paris isn't until Thursday." Thursday, 4 days later. By then, they'd be halfway through the trip. "Emma, you understand, right?" Lauren touched my arm, her grip just a little too tight. "We can't all miss the flight. The hotels are non-refundable, the tours are booked, you can join us later." Maybe I looked at my family, Diane avoiding my eyes, my cousin Jason suddenly fascinated by his phone, and Lauren with that small, satisfied smile she thought I couldn't see. In that moment, standing in the middle of Terminal 6 with travelers rushing around me, I felt more alone than I had since I was 7 years old. waiting in that foster care office. Go, I heard myself say. Don't miss your flight. Lauren hugged me quickly, perfunctorily. You're the best, Emma. We'll FaceTime you from the Eiffel Tower. I watched them walk toward security, their laughter echoing back to me. Not one of them turned around. Not once. The Uber ride home was the longest 40 minutes of my life. I sat in the backseat staring at my phone as the Carter Family Europe Adventure WhatsApp group lit up with selfies from the gate. Lauren posting champagne emojis, Diane sharing her business class seat, Jason joking about the extra legroom now. Not one message asking if I was okay. That evening, I sat alone in my apartment in downtown Los Angeles, surrounded by the silence I'd paid $35,000 to escape. My phone buzzed with a memory notification. 1 year ago today, Carter Family Thanksgiving. I opened it to see a photo Diane had posted. 12 people around the dining table, but I wasn't in it. I'd been the one taking the picture, of course. The pattern had always been there, hadn't it? At Lauren's college graduation, I'd been introduced to her friends as a family friend who's been very generous to us. When Grandma Carter passed away last year, the obituary listed all the grandchildren, except me. It would be confusing to explain, Diane had said. You understand? Oh, I understood perfectly. I was the ATM with a pulse, the safety net with a smile, the wallet they kept in the guest room. My UCLA MBA, earned while working full-time, had never been acknowledged. When I became CFO at 34, the youngest in company history, Diane had simply said, "That's nice, dear," and immediately asked if I could cover Lauren's car insurance. Even my birth name had been erased. The Carters had legally adopted me when I was 7 after my birth parents died in a car accident. But somehow, I was never Carter enough for the family Christmas card. Never Carter enough for the family trust. Never Carter enough to be remembered at the airport. 3 days into their trip, I'd stopped checking the WhatsApp group. But I hadn't stopped working. Sitting in my office at Redwood Capital Group, I opened the Carter Horizon project files. You see, Diane didn't know that I'd kept copies of everything when I helped structure the initial investment 2 years earlier. My name might not have been on the family trust, but it was on several key documents they'd needed my expertise to draft. The Carter Horizon project, a $50 million mixed-use development in Santa Monica, was set to launch in just 3 weeks. It was Diane's pride and joy, Lauren's ticket to legitimacy in the business world, and the family's attempt at becoming a real estate dynasty. What they didn't realize was that their financing structure had a fatal flaw, one that only someone with my background would ever notice. My phone rang. Unknown number. Emma Carter. The voice was smooth, professional, warm. Yes, this is Ethan Graves. I believe we met briefly at the Redwood Capital Conference last year. I'm calling about an investment opportunity that might interest you. Ethan Graves, CEO of Graves Global Ventures, the man who had built a real estate empire from scratch and now controlled half of Los Angeles's commercial market. We'd spoken for maybe 5 minutes at that conference, but apparently he'd remembered. I heard through the grapevine that you structured the Carter Horizon deal, he continued. Brilliant work. I'm particularly interested in that project. Would you be available for coffee tomorrow? I looked at the family photos on my desk, the ones where I was always just slightly out of frame, standing a little apart from the rest. Mr. Graves, I'm free all week, I said. My family is in Europe. Without you. There was something in his voice, not pity, but understanding. Without me, I confirmed. Their loss, he said simply. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. at the Beverly Wilshire. If you've ever felt like an outsider in your own family, type me too in the comments below. Your stories give me strength, and I read every single one. And for those of you watching this at 2 a.m., wondering if you'll ever be enough for people who should love you unconditionally, you're not alone. Also, where are you watching from? I'm curious, are family dynamics the same around the world? Drop your city below. Let's build our own family right here in the comments. Now, let me tell you what happened during those 3 weeks of silence. The meeting with Ethan changed everything, though not in the way you might think. Sitting across from him at the Beverly Wilshire, I learned something that made my blood run cold. Emma, I'll be direct, Ethan said, sliding a folder across the table. Your family is about to lose everything. The Carter Horizon project is leveraged against loans they can't possibly repay without the primary investor, who's pulling out next week. I opened the folder. Inside were financial records, emails, and one name highlighted in yellow, Lauren Carter, Managing Director. Your sister has been diverting project funds, Ethan continued. Small amounts at first, but it's accelerated. Nearly $2 million now. The main investor found out yesterday. They're going public with it at the launch event. Unless? I asked, heart pounding. Unless someone with deeper pockets steps in to cover the losses and take over the project, he said, leaning back. Someone like Graves Global Ventures. My hands trembled as I scanned Lauren's forged signatures, fake vendor payments, the shell company she'd created, all while spending my money on a European vacation. Why are you showing me this? I asked quietly. Because I've watched your work for years, Emma. You're exceptional, and you've been supporting people who don't deserve you. He paused. I'm offering you a choice. Let them collapse on their own, or help me acquire the project legally, cleanly, and walk away with 30% equity in Graves Global Ventures. That's worth more than your entire family ever dreamed of. I thought about the $5 million of my own savings I'd invested into the Carter Horizon project, money that would vanish when the scandal broke. Money I'd given them while they laughed behind my back, calling me their charity case. If I do this, I said slowly, they can never know it was me. Not until the launch event, Ethan finished, smiling. Exactly what I was hoping you'd say. You see, I need someone on the inside to make sure every document is signed properly. Someone they trust, someone they'd never suspect, because they've never believed you were smart enough to play their game. I'm in, I said. The confrontation came faster than I expected. Lauren called that night, her voice sharp and accusatory. Emma, did you talk to Ethan Graves? My pulse raced, but I kept my tone calm. Who? Don't play dumb. Someone saw you at the Beverly Wilshire. I have a lot of meetings, Lauren. It's my job. This is different, she snapped. He's been sniffing around our project. If you said anything... Said what? I let a trace of hurt into my voice. You didn't even tell me you were back from Europe. I had to find out from Instagram. We got back yesterday. No apology. Just fact. Look, we need you at the launch event. Investors want to see family unity. The audacity of it. Abandoning me at the airport and now demanding I play happy family for appearances. I don't think so, I said quietly. Excuse me? I said no, Lauren. I'm done. You ungrateful... She caught herself. Emma, you owe us. We took you in. We gave you a name. And I gave you $200,000 for the house, $80,000 for your loans, $35,000 for a trip you forgot to include me on. You offered that money. Because I thought I was family. You're not. She stopped, but the silence said the rest. I'm not what, Lauren? Not real family? Not blood? Silence stretched between us like a canyon. The launch is in 2 weeks, she finally said. If you're not there, don't bother coming to anything else ever again. Understood. And Emma, that money you mentioned? Consider it rent. For 18 years of charity, the line went dead. I sat in my apartment staring at the Graves Global contract. One signature, and I'd own 30% of the company. One signature, and the Carters would lose everything. I picked up my pen. Right on cue, the phone rang again. Diane, the family's final weapon. Emma, sweetheart, her voice cooed, honeyed poison. Lauren told me about your little tantrum. It wasn't a tantrum, Diane. You're being dramatic. So we forgot your ticket. It was an honest mistake, was it? A pause. What are you implying? Nothing. I'm just done funding a family that sees me as a financial safety net. How dare you, Emma? Did you know Lauren has been taking money from the Carter Horizon account? Dead silence. That's a cruel accusation, she said finally. Is it? Check the books. Fake vendors, missing funds, $2 million, Diane. Even if that were true, which it's not, that's family business. You're not family? I finished for her. Yes, Lauren made that very clear. Emma, you're twisting things. We love you, but you have to understand your place. Richard's gone, and the Carter legacy belongs to blood. My money wasn't too impure for that legacy, though, was it? $5 million of my own funds are in that project. That was a gift. You can't take back gifts. I'm not taking anything back, I said coldly. I'm just done giving. If you don't show up to the launch, you're out. Permanently. No holidays, no family events, nothing. I understand, I said evenly. And I'll make sure everyone else understands why. How you turned your back on the family that raised you. I glanced at the Graves Global documents glowing on my laptop screen. Ethan's offer waiting for one simple signature. Diane, I said quietly, can I ask you something? What? I asked quietly. In all the years I've lived with you, been part of this family, did you ever once actually love me? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Then finally, coldly, she said, Love doesn't pay bills, Emma. You should know that better than anyone. After she hung up, I signed every document Ethan had sent. Then I blocked every Carter family number. The war was officially on, and they didn't even know it yet. 2 days before the launch, I met Ethan at his office in the Graves Global Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Los Angeles, and somewhere out there, the Carters were scrambling to save their empire. The primary investor pulled out this morning, Ethan informed me. Your family has 48 hours to find new funding, or the project goes into default. They'll never find $20 million in 2 days. No, he agreed, but Graves Global can. He slid a new document across his massive oak desk. This is the acquisition agreement. We'll buy the project at market value, which, given the upcoming scandal, is significantly reduced. How much? I asked. $15 million for a $50 million project, he said, his smile faint but knowing. But here's the best part. We'll announce it at their launch event. I studied the papers. They'll have to sign everything over publicly, I realized, in front of every major investor in Los Angeles. Exactly, Ethan said, his eyes gleaming. Unless they'd prefer to announce bankruptcy instead. There's one problem, I said. They told me not to come. Oh, you're not coming as Emma Carter, the cast-off daughter, he smiled. You're coming as my personal guest. My strategic advisor, the woman who helped structure this entire acquisition. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. It was Lauren using a new phone. Emma, please, we need that $5 million back, just for a few weeks. I'm begging you. I showed Ethan the message. He laughed, not cruelly, but with genuine amusement. She's begging for money she claimed was rent? The Carters have always had selective memory. What will you tell her? I thought about 7-year-old me standing in that foster care office, waiting for someone to want me. Then I thought about 38-year-old me, who'd finally learned the difference between being wanted and being used. Nothing, I said. Silence is my answer now. The morning of the launch, I discovered something that changed everything. While reviewing the final acquisition documents, I found a clause I'd written myself 2 years earlier, a clause everyone had forgotten. Buried in subsection 47B of the original investment contract was my safeguard. If any managing partner was found guilty of fiduciary misconduct, their shares would automatically transfer to the largest individual investor. That investor was me. I called Ethan immediately. I need you to see this. 20 minutes later, he was laughing so hard his assistant came in to check on him. Emma, do you realize what this means? He said between laughs. You technically already own Lauren's 40%. That makes you the majority owner. The acquisition isn't even necessary. You could take over right now. But they don't know that? No, Ethan said slowly, his smile widening. They don't. And if we play this right, they'll sign away the rest of their shares thinking they're saving themselves, when really, they're signing it over to you. We spent the next hour crafting the perfect plan. The documents would be presented as Graves Global's acquisition, with my name buried deep in the subsidiary paperwork. Only after everything was signed would we reveal that Graves Global's strategic advisor was actually the majority owner. One more thing, Ethan said. I want you to wear something unforgettable to the launch, something that says power. I already have it, I said. The black Alexander McQueen dress I bought for Dad Richard's funeral, the one Diane said was too much for family. Perfect, he smiled. Oh, and Emma, I'll be introducing you from the stage. Any preference for how? I thought about all the times I'd been introduced as an afterthought, an add-on, a footnote in the Carter family story. Just call me what I am, I said, the woman who owns the Carter legacy. Have you ever had a moment when everything suddenly clicks into place? That aha moment when you realize you've been holding the winning card all along? Share your story in the comments below. I love reading about your victories, big or small. Whether it's standing up to a toxic boss, setting boundaries with family, or finally choosing yourself, your courage inspires others who are still finding their voices. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more stories about standing up for yourself, with class and strategy. Now, let's get to the main event, the launch that changed everything. The Beverly Hilton Grand Ballroom glittered with Los Angeles' elite. 200 of the city's wealthiest investors mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, champagne flowing freely, completely unaware they were about to witness the Carter family's public downfall. I arrived 30 minutes after the event began, timing it perfectly. Ethan and I entered through the main doors just as Diane took the stage for her welcome speech. She spotted me immediately. How could she not? I wore the black McQueen dress she'd once called inappropriate for family events. Tonight, it was perfect. Lauren's face went white. She stood near the stage in a designer gown, panic flickering in her eyes. She leaned toward Diane, whispering urgently. Diane faltered mid-sentence but quickly recovered. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, voice just slightly strained, welcome to the Carter Horizon launch. This project represents everything our family stands for: integrity, tradition, and exclusivity. I almost laughed. Integrity, from the woman who just told me love doesn't pay bills. Ethan guided me to the VIP section front and center. The whispers began instantly. Who was I? Why was I with Ethan Graves? Diane's eyes kept darting toward us as she spoke about the family's vision, their commitment to excellence, their tight-knit bond. Then she did it. She actually did it. The Carter family has always been selective about who we allow into our inner circle, Diane said, staring directly at me. Blood ties and loyalty matter. Not everyone who passes through our lives is truly family. Tonight, we celebrate with those who've earned their place. The crowd murmured its approval. Several people glanced at me, then dismissed me, just another +1 at a fancy event. Lauren stepped forward and took the microphone. Before we continue, she began, I need to address something. There's a woman here tonight who has no right to be here. She paused dramatically. Emma Carter, though she uses our name, is not a Carter heir. She's not blood, she's not family. She's someone we took in out of kindness, and now she's trying to insert herself where she doesn't belong. Security guards began moving toward me. The room buzzed with scandal. This was better than any reality show. Ethan stood up slowly, deliberately. Actually, Ms. Carter, he said, his voice steady and commanding. She's with me. The security guards froze. Everyone in the room knew Ethan Graves. You didn't touch his guests unless you wanted to be shut out of every major deal in the city. Mr. Graves, Diane stammered, her voice cracking. We weren't expecting you. Clearly, he said, his voice carrying easily through the silent ballroom. Though I'm surprised, given that Graves Global Ventures is about to become very involved with the Carter Horizon project. Lauren grabbed the microphone, panic rising. What are you talking about? Perhaps you should ask your accountants, Ethan said casually, about the $20 million gap in your funding, or the $2 million in vendor payments to non-existent companies. The crowd gasped, phones lifted, recordings started. Diane's face drained of color. That's slander, Lauren shrieked. Emma, you vindictive. Ms. Carter, Ethan interrupted, his tone ice cold. Emma hasn't said a word. She's simply here as my advisor. Although I'm curious, why would you assume she's involved? The trap was perfect. Lauren had just admitted, in front of everyone, that she knew about the missing money. Security, please escort them out, Diane demanded, but the security chief hesitated. Ma'am, he said carefully, Mr. Graves is a major shareholder in this hotel. We can't, I'm a Carter, Lauren screamed. This is our event. That woman is nobody. She's a charity case we took in, a leech who paid off your family's mortgage, I said, standing up. My voice was calm, but carried easily in the silence. A leech who covered your student loans, Lauren. Who invested $5 million in this project while you were stealing $2 million from it. You can't prove anything, she spat. I lifted my phone and connected it to the ballroom's AV system, a feature I'd made sure was available when I originally booked the venue for them. The massive screens, meant to showcase the Carter Horizon project, now displayed bank records, forged signatures, and shell company documents. I don't have to prove it, I said quietly. You already did. Every transaction, every fraud, every lie, it was all there. Diane swayed on her feet. Turn it off, she whispered. Turn it off now. But the crowd was transfixed. The Carter family empire was crumbling in real time, and everyone wanted to witness history. Ethan Graves walked onto the stage with the confidence of a man who owned the world, which, in a way, he did. The crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. Diane and Lauren stood frozen, trapped between the podium and their public humiliation. Ladies and gentlemen, Ethan addressed the room, his voice commanding instant attention. I apologize for the disruption, but transparency is everything in business. Graves Global Ventures has been monitoring the Carter Horizon project for some time. He clicked a remote, and the ballroom screens shifted to display the Graves Global logo alongside official documents. As of 9 a.m. this morning, he announced, Graves Global Ventures has acquired all outstanding debts and liens on the Carter Horizon project. Effectively, we now control the entire development. The room erupted. Investors who had poured money into the project began shouting questions. Diane grabbed the microphone. You can't do this. We have contracts. Contracts with a morality clause. Subsection 47B, to be exact, Ethan said smoothly, cutting her off. In the event of fiduciary misconduct by any managing partner, their shares automatically transfer to the largest individual investor. He paused, letting that hang in the air. Would you like to know who that investor is? Lauren's face turned paper white. No, it can't be. Ms. Emma Carter, Ethan declared, gesturing toward me, who personally invested $5 million and holds 31% of the project, combined with the 40% automatically transferred from Lauren due to the financial misconduct, Ms. Carter now owns 71% of the Carter Horizon project. The ballroom exploded. Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward. Diane sank into a chair, stunned. She's not even family, Lauren screamed. Tell them, Mom. Tell them she's nobody. Ethan smiled coldly. She's somebody now. In fact, she's your landlord, your employer, and the owner of everything you thought was yours. He turned to me. Ms. Carter, would you like to address your new investors? I walked onto that stage with 15 years of rejection pushing every step. The microphone felt like justice in my hand. Good evening, I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I know many of you are confused, so let me clarify. Yes, I was adopted by the Carter family. Yes, they raised me, but I paid for that privilege many times over, financially and emotionally. I looked directly at Diane and Lauren. You taught me that love doesn't pay bills. You were right, but respect does. Integrity does, and those are currencies you never had. The room went silent. Effective immediately, I continued. Lauren Carter is terminated from all roles within this project. Diane Carter's consulting contract is void. All Carter family members are barred from the property. You can't do this. Diane's voice broke. Richard would be spinning in his grave. Actually, I said softly, Dad Richard would be proud. He's the one who taught me to always have a backup plan. Subsection 47B, he helped me write it. The revelation hit her like a blow she couldn't deflect. She staggered, gripping the podium. You're lying, she whispered. Richard would never protect the daughter he actually loved. I pulled a letter from my clutch, Richard's handwriting clear and steady. Should I read what he wrote before he passed? About how he knew you and Lauren planned to cut me out, and how he made sure I'd be protected? Ethan took back the microphone. There's more, he announced. Ms. Carter isn't just the majority owner of this project. She's also Graves Global Ventures' newest partner, with 30% equity in our entire portfolio. The math stunned the crowd. Graves Global was worth billions. 30% made me one of the wealthiest women in Los Angeles. That's impossible, Lauren whispered. She's nobody. She's just an accountant. The youngest CFO in Redwood Capital's history, Ethan corrected. A UCLA MBA graduate with honors, a financial strategist who structured your entire project, the same project you couldn't manage without cutting corners. Reporters surged forward. Ms. Carter, Forbes will want an exclusive. Wall Street Journal has questions. Bloomberg needs a statement. But I saw only my so-called family. Diane was crying, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Lauren stood motionless, her night of triumph reduced to ashes. The saddest part, I said into the mic, is that I would have given you everything, freely, lovingly, forever. All you had to do was make me family, not on paper. In your hearts I held up the signed and notarized acquisition documents. But you chose cruelty. You chose greed. So now you get to live with those choices. Please, Diane sobbed suddenly. Emma, please. We're sorry. We're family. No, I said firmly. We're not. You made that clear at LAX airport. And for 15 years after that. I'm done begging for scraps of affection from people who only see me as a balance sheet. Security approached Lauren with a box, her office belongings already packed. You planned this, she accused. You've been planning it all along. No, Lauren, I said quietly. You planned this, the day you canceled my ticket. The day you smiled and left me behind. The day you assumed I'd always be too desperate to fight back. I stepped closer to the microphone. You were wrong. The paperwork was swift and final. Ethan's legal team had prepared everything. Termination letters, eviction notices, cease and desist orders, all perfectly legal, all devastatingly complete. Sign here, Ethan's lawyer instructed Diane, pointing to the transfer documents. This formally acknowledges the change in ownership. What if we don't sign? Lauren tried one last time. Then we file criminal charges, the lawyer replied evenly. $2 million in misused funds constitutes felony fraud. That's 15 years minimum. Diane's hand shook as she signed. Lauren followed, tears falling freely. With each signature, they surrendered their empire, their future, their pride. The penthouse, I told Diane. You have 30 days to vacate. That's generous. Legally, I could require immediate departure. Where will we go? Her voice was small, almost childlike. I suggest you use some of that Paris trip money to find a new place, I said softly. Oh wait, that was my money too, wasn't it? The audience ate it up, every phone recording, every reporter typing furiously. By morning, the Carter family scandal would dominate every financial headline. Ethan handed me a champagne glass. A toast, he said, raising it high. To Emma Carter, who proves that family isn't about blood. It's about character. Applause thundered through the room. People who'd never looked twice at me at family events now crowded forward, eager to shake my hand, to congratulate the woman who'd just pulled off the business coup of the year. But I wasn't finished. One more thing, I announced. The $5 million I invested in this project, I'm donating it to the Foster Children's Education Fund. Every penny will go to giving abandoned kids the chances they deserve. The room erupted again. In the corner, I saw Diane sink lower into her chair, finally understanding the scope of her loss. It wasn't just money or property. It was legacy, reputation, everything. Emma, please, Lauren tried once more. We're sisters. No, I said quietly. Sisters don't leave each other at airports. Sisters don't steal from each other. Sisters don't spend 15 years reminding one another they're not real family. I turned to Ethan. I think we're done here. As we walked toward the exit, the crowd parted respectfully. Behind us, the Carters stood alone in the ruins of their own cruelty. At the doors, Diane made one last desperate attempt. She grabbed my arm, the same way she used to when I was a child who'd embarrassed her somehow. You ungrateful little... Remove your hand, I said calmly, or I'll add harassment to the list. She released me instantly. Security stepped closer, alert. I gave you everything, she hissed. A home, a name, a family. You gave me a roof in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I replied evenly. You gave me a name you never let me truly carry. You gave me a family that reminded me every day I didn't belong. Lauren stood beside her mother, mascara streaking down her face. What do you want, Emma? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry. I don't want anything from you, I said. That's what you never understood. I wanted to give, to love, to belong, but you turned me into a transaction. I pulled out one final document and held it up. This is a restraining order. Come within 500 feet of me, my properties, or my business, and you'll be in violation. All communication goes through attorneys from now on, after everything we did for you, Diane said, her voice cracking. Let me itemize what I did for you, I replied, loud enough for the remaining reporters to hear. $200,000 for the mortgage, $80,000 for Lauren's loans, $35,000 for the Paris trip, $50,000 for Diane's car, $5 million for this project, medical bills, insurance, credit cards. Should I continue? The numbers hung in the air like an indictment. That's $5.4 million over 15 years, I continued. Divide that by the time I lived with you, and I paid you $25,000 a month for the privilege of being your charity case. So tell me, who was really the charitable one? Ethan stepped forward. The car is waiting, Emma. As we walked away, I heard Diane's final words echo across the ballroom. You'll regret this. Family is forever, I turned back one last time. No, Diane. Family is a choice, and you chose wrong. The doors closed behind us with a soft, definitive click. Outside, the Los Angeles skyline glittered with possibility. Ethan's Bentley waited at the curb, but I stopped for a moment, breathing in the cool air of freedom. No regrets? He asked. None, I said, and meant it. The aftermath was swift and merciless. By morning, the headlines were everywhere. Adopted daughter topples Carter empire. From charity case to CEO, Emma Carter's stunning rise. Family betrayal cost the Carters everything. Lauren's embezzlement scandal hit the financial pages. The FBI opened an investigation within days. Her accounts were frozen. 3 companies that had offered her positions withdrew their offers overnight. She was radioactive in the industry, untouchable, unemployable, finished. Diane fared no better. The charity boards she'd chaired for decades demanded her immediate resignation. The country club revoked her membership after members complained about her reputation. Her social circle evaporated. The same society women who'd once fought for her lunch invitations now ignored her calls. Their friends, the ones who'd watched them leave me at the airport and said nothing, quietly distanced themselves. Bad for business, they said, can't be associated with scandal. Even Jason, my cousin who'd stayed silent through everything, reached out. Emma, I had no idea they treated you like that. If I'd known. You knew, I cut him off. You all knew. You just didn't care, until it cost you something. The Carter Horizon project was renamed Graves Plaza. I had Diane's portrait removed from the lobby and replaced with a photo of foster children graduating, kids who'd made it despite the odds, like me. Within a month, Diane and Lauren were living in a small 2-bedroom apartment in East LA. Their luxury cars repossessed, their credit cards canceled. The glossy European vacation photos they'd posted so proudly now looked like relics from another lifetime. The best part? The inheritance they'd been so desperate to keep from me, Richard's estate they thought was worth millions, turned out to be mostly debt. Debt I had unknowingly been paying off for years. Without my money propping them up, the Carter name meant nothing. They hadn't just lost wealth, they'd lost identity, influence, and every illusion of superiority they ever held. The media attention was relentless, but I used it strategically. I gave exactly 3 interviews: Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and, most meaningfully, a foster care advocacy podcast that reached millions of survivors like me. What would you say to foster kids who feel like they'll never belong? The host asked. You belong to yourself first, I answered. No one else gets to define your worth. That episode went viral. Messages poured in from adoptees, foster youth, and anyone who'd ever felt like an outsider in their own family. Their stories broke my heart and strengthened my resolve. Meanwhile, Lauren's legal troubles deepened. The FBI uncovered more fraud, years' worth. Investors filed civil suits. Criminal charges followed. Her attorney, the same one who'd once helped her try to cut me out of everything, dropped her when she couldn't pay the retainer. Diane tried to write a tell-all memoir about raising an ungrateful adopted daughter. No publisher would touch it. She even launched a GoFundMe, claiming I'd stolen her family's legacy. It raised $342 before being taken down for fraud. One evening, Ethan and I had dinner at the Four Seasons. "Any regrets now?" he asked, echoing his question from launch night. "One," I said with a small smile. "I regret waiting so long to see my own worth." "Richard would be proud," he said quietly. "I knew him before he got sick. He talked about you constantly, his brilliant daughter who was too good for the rest of them." I blinked, stunned. "He never said that to me." "He wrote it," Ethan said, pulling out a sealed envelope. "He gave me this 2 years ago, told me to give it to you when you finally broke free." Inside was a letter, written in my father's shaky handwriting. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, you finally learned what I always knew. You were never the charity case. They were. Love, Dad." I cried for the first time since the airport, not from grief, but from validation I never thought I'd feel. 6 months later, Graves Plaza was thriving beyond every projection. I'd restructured the entire project, bringing in minority-owned businesses as tenants and adding affordable housing beside the luxury condos. It became everything the Carters were too greedy to imagine. The Foster Children's Education Fund had distributed over $2 million in scholarships. I personally mentored 5 young women who'd aged out of foster care, helping them through college, guiding them into careers. They called me their chosen family. That meant more than any Carter bloodline ever could. Lauren was sentenced to 5 years in prison, reduced to 3 for good behavior. Diane visited her every week, taking 3 buses across the city to get there. The woman who once refused to ride in anything less than a Mercedes now waited at bus stops in the rain. One day, I received a letter with no return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. "Emma, you'll probably throw this away, but I need you to know something. We were wrong. I was wrong. Not just about the money or the trip, but about everything. You were the only real thing in our fake family, the only one who actually loved us, and we threw it away for nothing. I'm sorry." I didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ashes. Ethan and I became partners in 3 more ventures. The financial press called us the power duo reshaping Los Angeles real estate. But beyond business, we became real friends, the kind who showed up, stayed, and saw each other's worth beyond dollar signs. The Carter name, once synonymous with old money prestige, became a cautionary tale in business schools, a case study in how greed and cruelty can collapse even the strongest empires. 3 years after that morning at LAX, I stand in my office at Graves Global, looking out over the city I helped reshape. The Carter Horizon Tower, now Graves Plaza, gleams in the distance. A monument not to revenge, but to resilience. I've learned 3 lessons about boundaries. First, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. The Carters showed me for 15 years that I was only valuable for my money. I just refused to see it. Second, you can't buy your way into belonging. All the money I spent trying to earn their love only taught them I was willing to pay for crumbs of affection. Third, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's success that has nothing to do with them. I didn't destroy the Carters out of spite. I simply stopped holding them up and let gravity do its work. Diane still lives in East LA. Lauren got out last month and works at a call center. They're surviving, which is more than they ever let me do. They forced me to thrive. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they'd just bought me that plane ticket. If they'd included me in the family trip I paid for, would I have kept subsidizing their lives forever? Would I ever have discovered my own worth? In a strange way, leaving me at that airport was the greatest gift they ever gave me. It set me free. If you're watching this and you've ever been someone's charity case, afterthought, or ATM, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by their acceptance. Family isn't about blood, guilt, or obligation. It's about choosing each other, again and again, especially when it's hard. The Carters never chose me, so I chose myself, and that made all the difference. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more stories about standing strong in the face of betrayal. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to choose themselves. Comment below, have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members? How did you find the strength? Your stories inspire me, and others who are still finding their way. Remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Blood doesn't make family. Love, respect, and choice do. Until next time, this is Emma Carter, reminding you that you are worth more than you've ever been told.